Okay, so I'm going to move on to another edit here. I'm looking at this daytime sun halo from the other day. Just been in my mind for the last little bit to kind of go through and maybe give it an edit. Took a walk along um, Superior Shore and got some, pretty interesting ice formations. I couldn't get any lower to this. It was right on the, I guess, the edge there, and I couldn't quite get in any further. This is Old Woman Bay, so I was hoping to kind of get um, the rock cut that looks like the old woman kind of in that little frame there, but it didn't work out. And again, that's usually the way it goes. There's the little rock cut there. Um, so I'm gonna move down here, and then it was nice and sunny that day, and then it clouded over. Um, just in time for sunset, like it usually does. And then this was a separate day here, where I just kind of took a walk along the shore. It's crazy. It's like standing some of these mounds, and it doesn't seem like that in the photo, but this is all ice, and it has to be 25 feet at least off of the water surface. So kind of really really tall ice formations. Pretty cool to see, pretty cool to walk around on. You have to be careful. Um, there's these little kind of caves. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to see it here. No, no, I won't be able to see it. That there's little caves that form underneath, and even some of these bigger ones, these mounds sometimes end up being hollow. So just have to watch out. You have to know the terrain and know the area as you go. So I really like this one, but I think I may wait for that one. Kind of want to do another one of these ones. Those. There's another one in here. Maybe it's further down, but I don't think. Yeah, it was this one, but I don't think the sun halo was not as nice as I would have wanted. So maybe let's go back to. I don't even know about that one. Huh. Well, this was going to be easier to pick one. Yeah, let's go with this one then. So I have to do my usual where I double check the two different focus areas. And what do we have here? This one's backgrounds and focus. Sometimes I'll star them. So if I find the ones where it's the background. So this is another background here. Yeah, so these two are my background, so that'll be my background focus. And I'm not too worried about exposure blending here. I think the sun looks good. These shadows might be a little bit dark, but we'll see what the raw kind of picked up within them. And then this one in focus. So that's pretty much all I should need here. Do you like this? I like that. I just want to look at this one and see if I like the composition any better than this one. That's really really similar. I'm just pushing it off a little bit more to that third. Anything else in here that would be a little bit more interesting than this one? I feel like this one's a little bit brighter. I like the motion in the clouds too. So yeah, let's go with those. And then I guess between these two for my foreground, they're both in focus. This one's a little sharper. So I'll go with these three. So I'm just going to open them up and do my regular raw edits. Just open them. That was the thumbnail page for my last one, the thumbnail for the video. You'll see I was shooting really high f-stop for these, f10, so you can really see those little dust spots. It's going to take me a few minutes to kind of go through and clean those up. But I'm going to go through my regular, I usually go through my optics here and do the regular profile corrections and any chromatic aberration. Then I zoom in on those highlight points, see if there is any more of that aberration kind of that I should need to kind of get rid of, but everything else looks good there. Perfect. Close up optics, go to detail. Again, I like taking the unsharpening and taking the noise reduction off. And I should set up a preset there. I'm too lazy. I'm usually more into editing the individual photo. So I'll do my overall here. I'm probably going to need to do it again to brighten up some of these darks back here, but for right now, I'm just going to do basically that. I'm going to see how much detail I can bring back here into that sun before it gets too gray, which looks like quite a bit actually, which is perfect. There we go. So a nice round sun instead of a kind of a glowing sun. I'll need to brighten up the rest of it. I usually exaggerate that halo just a bit as well. Like the clouds that are going on in the background there. So I think that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to go done here. Now I'm going to see how Photoshop does at merging these two together. I'll try it, but I don't know if it's going to work because I need to blend this in. No, I'm going to do this manually. Tools, Photoshop, load files into Photoshop layers. One, two. Sticking around here. Okay, so this is my foreground one here. So background, and then foreground. So I'm going to keep my foreground out of this for now. Just work with these two. First thing I usually do again is zoom out, reset my crop ratio, go off and then back on. And then just give myself some room above for now. Computer's slow today, I don't know what's going on. So that's my background one. This one here is my foreground one. So I'll bring that up again, just grab my horizon here, turn this off. I'm not gonna straighten my horizon right now because I need to straighten these two at the same time. So I'm gonna line them up first, then I'll straighten my horizon at the end. Just because I have two layers that I need to straighten. My original shot wasn't level; it was handheld, so it wasn't quite level. So I'll do that separately. So I just want to make sure here. I'm going to use this, and you can see I'm off a bit over here. So I'm going to rotate that. Move it up. Not too bad across here. Finish off that, and then I'm going to go into the regular warp tool here. So edit, transform, warp, grab this, and then just subtly tweak. And again, I just want to move it so it relatively lines up. My blending point is probably going to be right across these trees because they're really dark. I don't see it being an issue kind of using that as my blending point there. Again, I want to make sure I'm as close to as lined up as I can get it, so that when I do blend, if I am off a little bit, it's not going to be that bad of an overall blend. And I do want to make sure that my focus one is also as lined up as I can get it here. Probably end up blending just above the sky because there's no sharp details there I need to worry about, but I do want to make sure. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to quite work out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this. I'm going to go to regular. I'm going to see what Photoshop can do for me here. Back to normal, select these two layers, and go to edit, auto align layers. I'm going to do auto here. And it's just not. Here's my original. I didn't do too bad of a job. It's just this. Yeah, so this is actually all my backgrounds. This shouldn't matter right now. And then I'll have to auto align that one. Yeah, that's not going to work either. Sorry, I just want to go back to before these were auto aligned too. Right there. Okay, and the main reason why is because when I get after these are aligned and blended, these two, then I have to make sure this one's aligned, and it is right now. Right now, well, actually, it's off a little bit. Okay, so maybe that won't matter too much if I do that, because then I can rely on, okay. Sorry, there's a lot of thinking and reacting to each individual photo here. I'm just doing that out loud. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. So I'm going to auto align these layers. Yep, I want to do that. I'm going to turn this one off for now so it doesn't distract me. And then I'm just going to blend these two together, create a layer mask here. And this blend is going to be in these darker spots here. So I'm going to blend right around this ice chunk here, and then blend across here, and then just get rid of that. So it should be a relatively easy blend. I'm going to check those areas, that transition. There's a little bit of a halo or a haze kind of going on there. So I'm just going to change my brush size and get rid of it just until, you know, it's happening right on the edge of a tree or something. So you can see here it's happening right on the edge of that tree. It doesn't look too bad. Up here it's a little bit there. It's better. Check across my whole horizon here. Yeah, not too bad. Okay, so there's the overall blend. I'm not going to worry about the sky. I might tweak these a little bit later, but I am going to merge these two together because I double checked and everything. Actually, I should do one final check over here. I think everything looks fine. There's no ghosting or anything happening. So I'll merge these two layers together now. So merge layers. So now I have to come in and make sure this guy's aligned with the rest of the image here. And because, let's just grab it and see what I can do without any distortion or anything. Yeah, no, it's not going to quite. You can see how far off. If I line this up, this ends up being quite a bit off. So we're going to try again. Go back, select both those layers, and try to auto align and see, just to see what Photoshop can do. A lot of times I'll do that. Double check and see how easy it's going to be to do that myself, and then throw it over to Photoshop and let Photoshop kind of do the blending for me and see how that works out. So I need to make a selection here. This is going to be heavy selection based, this one. So we're going to use some of the selection tools. I don't think I'm going to keep that distortion one there. So one of the main reasons why I'm not going to keep that is it didn't work exactly the way that, like, it didn't line up perfectly. So if it's not lining up perfectly, I'd rather come in and try to line it up as best I can and just kind of do it myself. So basically what I want to do here, because I'm going to make a selection, so this is the in focus layer. I want to make sure that this is overlapping a little bit, overlapping the out of focus one, because I'm going to make a selection around this and blend that into the background. Here I'll probably have to use the clone tool to fix up where this stuff doesn't quite overlap, or I might try the puppet warp here really quick. So let's go edit, puppet warp. If you remember from the last video, if you watched the last video, I'm just anchoring those points. So I'm coming in and anchoring the image so that when I come in and actually manipulate some of these points, it's not the whole image that's rotating around on me. So I'm just going to come in and subtly tweak some of these. So I'm going to anchor this over here so it stays, and then I'm going to stretch this out. Perfect. And it looks like I'm going to stretch this out here a little bit as well. And I'm just looking for strong overlap happening. So I don't know which one okay, I'm stretching that one. So I might be able to crop this a little bit better. So, yep, so that looks fine. My horizon's way off here. So that is the in focus. So that doesn't matter. I just need to make that selection. This is probably going to get cut off right here anyway. Let's go back over here and check. Make sure there's a decent overlap of my in focus. So when I create the selection for these, I'm not going to end up without any out of focus fringing or halos, out of focus halos happening. Just pull this up. It's a little bit challenging here to see where the actual image line is here, so it's harder to see. Actually ends up moving down quite a bit here, so I'm going to move these up just so that you can see this is the line down here. This is my in focus line down here, so I need to make sure that's moved up. I'm going to pull these back down. Keep my image relatively square. Again, I just want to Make sure that those are overlapping enough. That, I don't think this is going to edit. Yeah, I think that should be pretty good. I'm going to finish that off, change my blending mode back to normal. So now this layer mask is going to be selection based, so I'm going to just come in here with my, we'll see, I don't think it's going to work just because all the values are so close together. Maybe it will. So just kind of come in and using the quick select brush here and try to, I usually do this is my initial selection, and then I go in with the lasso tools and refine that selection after. So after I'm done coming in here with my quick select to give my overall selection down, it's not perfect. Again, I'll have to come in, and that's where I think the majority of the time of this image is going to be spent, just making sure that that selection is nice. And you can see these values are too close together. That's why it's selecting the ice. This should be easy. It should know exactly what to do here because of those happen there. What's going on? There we go. Yeah, just because there's such a strong value difference between. So here I'll come in with my lasso. So option will subtract from the selection, and just take my time. I do these little tiny segments. So you'll see I loop back around. I'll really concentrate for a little bit, and then when I feel my wrist kind of slipping a little bit, and that just means like I'm not going to be able to follow that selection. You know, if I try moving it any further, you know, if I keep going here and now I need to reset my hand and I can't quite do it, and it's just really awkward. So that's why I do these smaller kind of loops. You see here, coming in with these smaller loops. I'm just working my way through. Holding down option because I want to subtract from the sky selection or the background selection, and just kind of coming through this way. Oh, that was close. Felt my hand kind of bumping around. I thought I didn't know if it was going to work. Actually, this shouldn't take too long. It's not too much. Yeah, subtracting this. Work my way through here, subtracting this, adding here, so it didn't select, adding a little bit here, adding a little bit here, and subtracting, good, and then subtracting here. So I think I'm just going to do this. Might seem a little bit out of focus, but I'm not worried about it too much here. And I don't know why I'm going to select this too, but I am, just in case I want to shift it around a little bit. And then I'm going to add the entire sky, the rest of the top of this image to a selection. With my mouse there. Oof, that was close. And then I'm going to create my layer mask. So I should actually first, there's two things I should have done first. So select, inverse, so I'm going to invert that selection. And I'm also going to select a mask, which is going to maybe smooth out the selection a bit and add a little bit of a feather to that selection. And I can zoom in, I can double check. Yeah, that's not too bad. And then hit OK. And then create my layer mask. And that'll remove the sky. So there's my in focus area. Again, it's a bit off, so I'm going to kind of come in and maybe with a brush and kind of blend that a little bit easier. So I'll do that now. So I'm painting with white, I think. And create a harder edge, smaller brush, and you'll just see, oh, no, painting with black. I need to paint with black to remove. So again, you can see I'm just kind of cleaning up those little fringing kind of areas. Maybe I'll soften the brush just a bit. So here, ideally I would be using my tablet, but it's not quite plugged in. So actually I'm going to switch this over to white here because it looks like I need both of them. So this one will be white. No, this isn't going to work either way. So this is going to be a clone tool fix. So I'll fix that up with the clone tool after. I'll go along here. No, same thing. I'll fix that with the clone tool. I don't think the rest of this, there should be any issues with the rest of this working my way across. Actually, maybe a little bit in here. So it's a little bit of a softer brush. You'll just see that there's I like the focus that's going on down in here, so I'm just going to blend this in focus and out of focus kind of areas here. That shouldn't be too bad. And one thing I did notice that this layer here needs to be brightened up a little bit, just to match the rest, just to get my values to match. So, excuse me, I'll brighten that up just a bit here. Maybe somewhere in that range, just for now anyway. So I'll have two things I need to fix here, as just the fringing that's happening around the edge, and then I should double check my focus down here. Actually, it's not too bad. And then maybe a little bit along here with the clone tool as well. Again, you can see that. Let's see if I can fix that with just my regular brush here. No. Yeah, so all you need to use the clone tool to fix that up. That's probably what I'll do next. I just want to, you know, crop this down to roughly where it's going to be, so I know how much to crop out, how much to clone out. I can maybe add a little bit to that edge there. Try to blend this a little bit more in here maybe, and fill in that little area just to try to keep as much of the original image as I can. So like that. New layer for my clone tool. Actually, let's go here to back to my brush and try to get a better blend going on here. Let's see what can happen. How much of this is in focus? Where's the line that's in focus? I'm just erasing a lot of this, and then I'll come back in along that edge. I know I'm getting rid of that selection work that I did, but it's all reactive. It just depends on, you know, how it worked out, what the image is doing. A bit of a softer edge there just to get a better blend. Something like that. And that should get stronger into focus as I get up here. There we go. Yep, that's not too bad. So back to my clone tool, fix up the bigger areas first. So down here, I'm gonna fix this up just by extending this line down. Oh, jumped to my wrong layer there. So that was pretty easy. Over here should be relatively easy as well. I'm gonna clone that line. I'll have to erase some of it, but we'll do that after. Actually, I'm gonna use the healing brush here. I can get a better blend of values with the healing brush. Still a little line there, so I'll need to come in and fix that up. Let's see up here. I might crop this out. We'll see what it looks like. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. So a little bit of a better blend happening there, which isn't too bad. Good. And then I just need to come back with my clone tool and just sharpen up this area here. And I'm basically just kind of redrawing the edge here. That's all I'm doing. Look at this little spot here. And while I'm at it, I'm going to come in and just kind of clean up this little edge as well. Spots there, in here as well. There's a little bit of a out of focus edge or exposure difference. There's a difference in the exposure, so the edge is off a little bit. Up here as well, a little bit there. The rest of this seems fine. A little bit in here, and then I do need it up here, but I think it's gonna be harder to blend because I have those clouds going on. So if I do this all the way around, I'll end up with this like line, this clone line. So I have to be a little bit more careful here. That might be a little bit tricky. Just going to pick these colors or these values pretty. What I might do here is I'll go through and there'll be a little bit of a line there, but I'll try to fix that line with the healing brush instead of the clone tool. So you can see that line that's happening there. Again, I'm going to try to kind of come in and fix that with the healing brush. And the healing brush it's way better at blending values than the clone tool. The clone tool, again, is a direct copy. So if I come in now with the healing brush, softer edge, and just kind of draw a line, it does a lot better at blending those two values together. So it's less of a harder line, and it's a little bit more of a kind of nicer. And I can't do that from the get-go, because if I come too close to that edge, you'll see that it softens the edge and tries to blend that edge into the sky, which is, again, it's not really what I want there. Clone tool for this. Rid of this little bit of fringing. A little bit up here as well. Now I'll come in with my healing brush there again, just to blend those values. Good. And you know what, all this work is just basically allowing me to have a better presence within the photo, if that makes sense. What I mean by that is I'm overcoming the 15mm lens that I have, and kind of having a lens that's really, really big. It's like a super wide, because I'm basically just, you know, blending two 15mm images together. And it is harder to do because of the distortion within the lens. 15mm is a really wide angle, so I end up with this fisheye kind of effect happening. And if I focus up here on this one and then down here on this one, there is distortion. So, you know, I'll never be able to get it to line up perfectly. It's one of the reasons why I have to use the Puppet Warp tool and kind of just blend those areas together as best as I can. So now that I'm done most of my exposure my panel blending, blending those two images together. What's going on here? There we go. Now I'm going to come in and clean up those little dust spots. I usually do that before I do any of my major adjustments, which this image probably doesn't need much, maybe just a little bit of brightness in specific areas, and I'll probably have to tone my blues down. Usually when I push those, the contrast or the highlights and shadows and such, it usually oversaturates the blues way too much, especially on winter scenes and kind of like dusk and moonlight scenes where there's lots of that blue light just naturally present. Whenever I do any kind of major or even minor editing to them, I usually have to take out some of those blues. It just looks a little bit too surreal and just a little bit too kind of saturated. In one of the classes I teach, I talk a lot about clumping things together. So here, trying to avoid clumping these blacks together. So, you know, I'll try to brighten those up a little bit, but, you know, at that point there's not much I can do. But when I'm editing, I can push it too far and clump blacks together over here, and I want to avoid that. And I can also push it too far and clump a bigger circle of white together. And again, I want to avoid that as much as I can, just to keep it a nice clean image. So I think this is overall pretty good. So I'm going to merge my layers into one here, so I can go to filter, camera raw filter. I love going into here kind of as my first, sometimes I'll do an overall kind of curves there, but I like coming in here, brightening up my shadows, see how much detail I have. There is some detail in there. So look at that tree line, how much detail my camera captured that didn't get represented until I really pushed those shadows. So here, for instance, maybe not quite that much, maybe about there. And then I want to turn my whites down just so it's easier to blend. Hit OK. So you'll see here that there's a difference, but I think everything else is too bright. So what I usually do here is hide all of that with a new layer mask. There we go. And then come in and paint with white to reveal it. So I'm just going to come in here, maybe 20%, a softer brush, and just reveal some of that tree detail, maybe 40% there, 40%. It is a little bit saturated in those blues. You'll also see here as I'm painting, I am kind of picking up and blending that into the sky just a little bit. I'll probably come back and tone it down in some areas, but I like working my way through and doing my overall kind of swipe with a nice big brush, so I don't have to worry about the edges so much. See what it looks like, and then adjust the edges that I don't like. again, it's just adding a little bit of extra detail. Like I mentioned, avoid clumping those whites together. So now I just hit X, and that reverses from painting with black to painting with white. So I'll just come in here anywhere where I see there's a major kind of value difference, or it looks like it was taken too far. I'll just come in here and kind of fix up the blending of those edges. Trees, it's not a big deal because there is dark spots within those trees. So if I do darken those areas a little bit and bring them back a little bit too much, there's still that subtle detail, and it's so far away. You can see how far away it is. But again, it doesn't seem like much, but it does bring some detail into that area, so that when you look at it, there's just something there to look at, kind of within. And then, like I mentioned in the last video, I usually do this quite a bit, just to double check my edges and to see if there's any kind of halo areas that I may have missed, kind of within. And that's just kind of, see up here, there's lots. A little bit too light up there. But again, that's not too bad. So then I'll do it again. I'll Command Option Shift E, and that again merges everything to another layer for me. And then go back to my camera raw filter. Now I'll have a look at the image as a whole. So before I was just focusing on those trees, adjusted those small tree area. Now I'm going to look at it as a whole. I don't think there's too much I really left I need to do to this image. I do want the sky to be darker back here. I want to try to exaggerate that halo just a tiny little bit. Let's see if this does. Keep that there. It's just so you can see, as soon as I play with this dehaves, those blues they do become maybe a little bit too much. It's not too bad here. This clarity and textures, it's almost like another way of sharpening. It just kind of sharpens up some of those textural details. I feel this looks like it's glowing a little bit. I might exaggerate that just a bit. I think I'm going to have to do this in two. I think this is going to be separate than everything else. So I'm going to focus on this foreground area right now. A little bit of contrast, brighten it up a bit. Not going to darken those darks too much. I do like the darker contrast that's going on there. Maybe bump up my overall exposure. Probably about there. It's not too bad. Perfect. We'll see what that looks like compared to the original here. So again, you can see how much those blues, it is crazy how much those blues jump out. So same thing as before, create a new layer mask. I paint with black this time at 100%. Actually, sorry, no, I'm going to fill with black. And I'm going to paint with white. And again, just roughly 100% here just to get all of this painted in. And a softer, lower opacity to get that blend to happen. And it doesn't bother me if I blend into the background a little bit. Just kind of creates a nice smoother transition across there. Good, I like that. Maybe a little bit much in here, so maybe take it just a tiny bit out. I do like the blues that are going on there. I like how that sharpened up that ice. So I'll do it again, Command Option Shift E, flattens my layer into a single layer. Go back to Camera Raw, and I'll do my sky this time. So I'm just going to focus on the sky. A little bit of dehaze, a little bit of clarity, brightening my exposure, but turning my whites back down a little bit. Somewhere in that range. You can see how bright, too much blue is going on in here now. So again, you can see it's a subtle difference, and I don't want to push it too far because I don't want to push those blues too much. And then again, I'll just fill that in, switch my brush back over to white, and brush in maybe 50% or so. Brush in that new adjustment. I might have to come in, go back to black over here, and I did come into here a little bit much, so I'll just remove some of the adjustment that came into here. And then I think the rest of this I'll just do with curves here, maybe a little bit of hue saturation. maybe just brighten that. So I'm just going to darken everything because I do want to introduce some darker edges here. Again, fill it all with black. My paintbrush, paint with white, big brush, maybe 20%, and big soft brush, and just blend some of those darker sky values down into. The other thing that's neat here too is with the halo, as I can come in and I do a couple clicks and maybe darken the inside of the halo. Maybe that's a little bit too much, but just a tiny little bit to just to exaggerate it maybe a little bit. Maybe around the outside edge here too, just to emphasize it and push it out a bit towards the viewer, I guess. Zoom out a little bit. I like zooming out when I'm painting and dealing with my corners, because you see my brush, it's mainly editing outside of the image there. So here on, so let's see if I can brighten. So here I'm just looking at the foreground ice. So I do feel like I just wanted to brighten it just a little bit. So then fill that all with black again and paint in there with white what I want to reveal. And again, 20% increments are usually what I do, and it just allows me to be a little bit more free with those adjustments. I don't need to focus on being so close to the edge. If I feel like I need to be that close to the edge all the time, if I feel like I need to be that close to the edge, then I almost should make a selection. But if I use a lower opacity, the blending is just so natural that happens in there that I'm not really worried about any fringing or any edges that might show up. Something like that. Perfect. And don't know, I actually kind of like the little bit of blue that's going on up here, down here. I mean, I don't think I'd really play too much with those blues, so I think this would be done. I'm going to see what my noise in the sky looks like. There's a little bit of noise up there, so I like using the Topaz AI denoise. It's usually really good. I'm due for a subscription update, but it still honors the older ones. Actually, yeah. So again, I don't want to renew it, but I still have access to it. So I'm gonna keep that. You'll see it does look a little bit lighter with that denoise applied, and maybe I'll just jump to standard here. What's going on? Sometimes I'll jump into 400% or so. Just to double check, and it's doing a pretty good job. So I do want to check down here and just see how much, if I'm losing any detail. Maybe just a tiny bit, but I don't think it's too much. And I can sharpen it up a little bit. So let's do that. So we'll apply that. And this might take a second or 20. Actually, it's not too bad. Soon. I'll have my second morning coffee here after I'm done this. I'll probably post this on Instagram as soon as I'm done here, send it over to myself, and I'll post this video sometime today as well. Which I was hoping for it to be a little bit shorter. What are we at here? We're at almost 40 minutes. It does take a while, and a lot of it, with my blending and stuff. Man, that looks nice. I love that noise reduction, it's so good. So a little bit of focus there, but still a nice sharp focus up here, which is where I want my main focal point to be, so that's perfect. And then maybe just a sharpen here as well. So I don't like sharpening on the same layer as my denoise, so I make a copy of it, and then just filter, and then unsharp mask. Oops. So I don't know why they call it unsharp mask, but it's basically made for sharpening. So I just want to focus on, one of these areas. And I usually don't do all the way to 100%. I was pushing it last time. This one shouldn't need too much, so just maybe around a pixel radius and maybe around that 63%. So I usually do that, oops. And then just take a look at it and see. I could have pushed it a bit more, I think. It's not too bad. It is sharpening a little bit, but I think I could have pushed it a little bit more. I'm just going to go back before the unsharp mask. Go back to filter. Unsharp mask. And I can push that probably the 100% or so. Perfect. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So you can see that sharpening happening. Again, I like to be doing my sharpening right at the end. I don't know if it's the proper way of doing it, but again, it's usually one of my kind of go-to ways. And lastly, I do feel like it needs to be brighter. But again, selectively. So that's nice and bright, but the sun got too bright. So I'll bring that back. Saturation's a little bit off, so I'll show you how to fix that, because it's pretty cool how to do that. And then I do want to bring some of those darks back to my corners a bit. Something like that. Oh, I missed a few of those. Those dirt spots, they show up once you've come in and done some adjustments, especially in those smooth sky areas. Again, you'll kind of see those pop up. So here is just not quite as blue as the rest of it. So a really neat trick there is to change a brand new layer to a blending mode of color. Grab a brush at like 10%, choose the blue, and then just paint that blue in, and it removes. You'll see how it was desaturated, and I'll show you just once I've finished painting this in here. So I'm gonna warm up that sun a little bit. So again, you can see how it went from like an orangey kind of gray more into that blue that suits the rest of the image. I probably took it too much. Oops. I'm just going to turn the opacity of that layer down just a bit. So again, that's too much. That's too much. So probably somewhere right in the middle here. About there, probably. Good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that better. Just a little bit brighter. See, the halo gets brighter. One thing I might do here too, my brush, I do black. Let's just darken this a little bit. Back to where it was. Perfect. Yeah, and that would be it. I think it looks good. Actually. Lots of blues going on here, but I kind of like it. Just wait for this to save. But yeah, that's it. I'll save it as a smaller JPEG so I can view it and I can post it once this is done saving. And yeah, so again, if you like these, I'll be doing lots of these, very reactive. Again, they will end up being half hour to an hour, somewhere in that range, depending on the complexity. Like if I'm not doing a lot of blending with the panos, or if the panoramic feature within Photoshop, the auto align layers, if that ends up working out, it ends up cutting 15-20 minutes off my editing. But when I'm doing these manual kind of blending of panoramic style images, then again it does take a little bit longer. And one of the main reasons I do that is there's there's a presence to it. It's different. Like if I was just shooting, I guess this won't really work here because that's already merged. Yeah. But if I was just shooting with just my 15, I'm really limited here on how much of this foreground I can have in my image. So if I go for a big sky, which is really the point of this image, I'm limited here on my foreground and how it leads up. And the same thing over here. If I have this nice foreground, I'm limited on what I can include in my sky. I get this edge, this tension along the edge with the halo as it rubs up against the edge of the frame there. So again, it's just kind of finding that balance, and it's usually that kind of double shot. And a lot of times, again, what I'll do is I realize that and notice that in the field, so I'll do those shots again in the field with those 2-shot vertical. And honestly, it does work out well for Instagram with the kind of square image kind of going on as well. So it's one of the other reasons why I do like it, and I kind of like shooting that way. So I'm just gonna remove copy, sorry, and then so again, if you enjoyed that, if you want to see more, the small little techniques and stuff, feel free to subscribe and give the video a like, and again, maybe a comment if you like a certain way, or if you've never seen a certain way, or if you're wondering why I'm doing something a certain way, feel free to mention it in the comments. Ciao for now.